Hello everyone. Welcome to the Lightning Ball channel. If you haven't yet subscribed to my channel, please do so and activate the notification bell. Your support fuels my continued efforts. After the battle with the Eastern Empire concluded, Rimuru spent a busy yet peaceful period preparing for the decisive showdown with Michael, Feldway, and their allies. We detailed this part of the story in episodes 77 through 80. In this episode, we'll dive into one of the conversations that took place between Rimuru and Ciel during this time. This content is drawn from the TenSuraX short story collection. So, let's get started. One day, during this rare period of peace, as the day was nearing its end, Rimuru finally got a chance to rest and retreated to his room. As we've mentioned before, Rimuru didn't actually need to rest or sleep, but he still cherished his moments of solitude. In these quiet times, Rimuru couldn't help but think back to the world he had lived as in before his reincarnation. Indeed, ever since arriving in the Central World, so much had happened that Rimuru hadn't had the time to reflect on his previous life. The first thing that suddenly came to mind was whether Tamura had managed to get married. Of course, this wasn't something Rimuru could possibly know, given that he had already left that world. But just as Rimuru was lost in thought, Ciel's voice suddenly rang out, startling him. Ciel remarked that Tamura was probably married. While Rimuru grumbled about being startled, he curiously asked Ciel how she even knew about Tamura. Could Ciel somehow access information about Tamura? Ciel explained that when Rimuru awakened as a true demon lord, when she, as the Lord of Wisdom, implemented the alternation, she had obtained information about Rimuru-sama's world before reincarnation through a certain channel. It's worth noting that Ciel's claim wasn't limited to Tamura. She said she had acquired information about Rimuru's entire previous world, Earth. Rimuru was astonished, finding it incredible that such a thing was even possible, and asked Ciel what this mysterious channel was. However, Ciel replied that she couldn't share that information with Rimuru-sama because it involved forbidden matters. She quickly changed the subject, asking Rimuru if there was anything specific he wanted to know about his previous world. Rimuru had a feeling the question had been cleverly deflected but decided not to press further. After all, what would be the point? Instead, Rimuru asked Ciel about what had happened to his body in that world after being stabbed by the random killer. Ciel explained that Mikami had been hospitalized and was in a coma, and that Mikami's older brother had rushed to the hospital soon after. Rimuru was shocked once again, not expecting that his brother had also arrived. However, hearing that Mikami was in a coma made Rimuru wonder if it meant he hadn't actually died after all. However, Ciel immediately followed up, stating that Mikami would soon pass away. Rimuru felt a twinge of sadness but realized there was nothing he could do about it. He then asked Ciel what exactly the murderer's motives were. Ciel explained that the killer had been fleeing after committing a robbery, and that Mikami and Tamura had simply been unlucky enough to cross paths with him during his escape. Rimuru sighed, remarking that his misfortune in his previous life truly couldn't have been worse. He then wondered aloud whether Tamura would have remained unharmed if he hadn't tried to save him. If that were the case, Rimuru thought, his efforts might have been entirely in vain. Ciel, however, reassured him that without Rimuru-sama's intervention, Tamura would undoubtedly have died. This response visibly relieved Rimuru, at least confirming that his sacrifice hadn't been meaningless. Ciel added that she had read from Rimuru-sama's memories of his previous life that he had been determined to save Tamura at the time. Rimuru admitted that he had indeed thought so, reasoning that it would be better for himself to get stabbed rather than Tamura, who was about to get married. He acknowledged that it was a strange and overly rational calculation of risks and benefits. Hearing this, even Ciel was momentarily at a loss for words. Rimuru then decided it was best not to dwell on his past life any further and shifted the conversation to questions about the current world. Ciel, ever dependable, assured him that she would answer everything to the best of her ability. Rimuru's next question was whether living beings could survive inside his stomach. Ciel explained that it was impossible. At best, spiritual life forms could potentially survive, but only barely. In most cases, the objects stored inside were ultra-compressed before being absorbed into the stomach. Rimuru was shocked to learn how dangerous his stomach was, and he suddenly recalled how he had, on numerous occasions, stored both allies and enemies inside it. Ciel clarified that these operations were only possible because she, whether as great sage or lord of wisdom, had always used magic to protect them. After learning about the nature of his stomach, Rimuru asked Ciel about the slimes in this world and what kind of creatures they were. Ciel explained that slimes were magical beings with highly acidic bodies. In areas rich in magicule they were relatively docile, but in regions with low magicules, they would become aggressive and attack other creatures in search of magical energy. Additionally, since physical attacks were almost completely ineffective against them, fighting slimes with magic was the standard tactic. As a result, goblins struggled to defeat slimes in combat. Speaking of races, Rimuru asked if there were any particularly rare species in this world, given the wide variety of races he had encountered. Ciel, however, sighed and remarked that almost every race Rimuru-sama interacted with was already a rare species. Having finished his questions about races, Rimuru inquired if there were any legendary weapons in this world. Ciel gave a formal response, saying that legendary weapons did exist, but most of the weapons commonly known or passed down were only of rare grade. At this point in the timeline, most of the weapons belonging to Rimuru and his subordinates had already surpassed the legendary level, reaching the mythic grade. However, this question revealed just how much Rimuru still didn't know about many aspects of the world. Finally, Rimuru asked one last question: what exactly was the voice of the world? Ciel explained that although it was referred to as a voice, it was actually a skill that allowed information to flow directly into the mind. She added that in terms of abilities, it was generally understood as a way to recognize what powers one possessed. However, many people lacked the capacity to masterfully use their own abilities due to incomplete understanding. Ciel's explanation was intentionally vague and general. Unsurprisingly, Rimuru found the answer a bit confusing and asked if it was because he had a Manas like Ciel that he was able to use ultimate skills so proficiently in battle. Ciel didn't directly answer the question, instead noting that those capable of acquiring ultimate skills typically had exceptional comprehension. To masterfully wield their powers, practice and experience were crucial. Ciel used Gi as an example, pointing out that his computational ability far exceeded that of others, which allowed him to use his skills with greater precision and efficiency. Rimuru, as usual, marveled at Gi's immense power and remarked that he would rather avoid any situation where he would have to fight Gi. However, Rimuru seemed to recall the mysterious channel Ciel mentioned again, the one through which Ciel had obtained information about his previous world. When he pressed her for details, Ciel remained silent. Rimuru, feeling helpless, suggested they could simply chat leisurely until sunrise. Ciel, however, informed him that it was already morning. Rimuru was shocked. How could time have passed so quickly when they had only exchanged a few words? Ciel explained that in order to convey the information from this mysterious channel, she had to activate a special barrier to block external interference. Within this barrier, the flow of time differed from that of the outside world, and it could only be used periodically. Rimuru, though unsure of the exact mechanics, realized that this mysterious channel must possess immense power, enough to make even Ciel cautious. Since it was now morning, Rimuru decided to start his new day, and Ciel deactivated the barrier. Alright, that's all for this video. This conversation was very brief, with its core revelation being that Ciel had obtained information about Rimuru's previous world through an unknown method. The specifics of how remain a mystery. Moreover, this method, or the mysterious channel, required Ciel to activate a special barrier to block interference, even to mention it briefly to Rimuru. Of course, I believe we'll likely gain more insights in volumes 22 and 23, at which point this strange conversation will make more sense. The author wouldn't include such a peculiar exchange without reason. It must serve the greater narrative in future developments. Perhaps this powerful and enigmatic channel is connected to the voice of the world. Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. Your support is greatly appreciated. See you in the next one.